Hey everyone, welcome to the Danker Family Fantasy Football Podcast, Week 4 recap. Let's go ahead and dive right in. This was quite the week, especially just, up and down, a lot of things didn't go as planned. I think this was my worst week in terms of predicting, by far. So, but let's go ahead and get right into it. Just a quick look at the standings after 4 weeks. Only one team still remains undefeated, Uncle Tom at 4-0. You got in the West, Joan, Garrett, John, all tied at 2-2, and then myself down at the bottom, 1-3. Not a good start at all. It's very disappointing. We'll get more into that soon. And for the East, we got four 2-2 teams, all tied for first. Ben, Adrian, Nels, and Carrie, and then Carol down last at 1-3. Interesting, we don't have any 3-1 teams. I don't know. I just found that very odd. It's either 1-3, 2-2, or 4-0. No 3-1s, no 0-4s. Thank God. But and then just looking at some quick interesting stats here. In terms of points for Uncle Tom leading the way with Joan in second and Ben in third. Down at the bottom three with John, Carrie, and Carol, not getting the least amount of points. But points against, you have Nels Jensen leading the pack. We're, I guess, in the best in terms of points against. So been very fortunate in your matchup so far. And then with Uncle Tom at second, that's a recipe for success for Tom, when you have the most points and the second fewest points against. And then Carrie at third, with that. And it's funny because, like, I mean, it's not funny for her, but Aunt Carol having the least amount of points for and the most amount of points against. So that's just a recipe for disaster. So, um, yeah, sorry, Aunt Carol. And also just another interesting thing, obviously Uncle Tom's on a 4-game win streak, so good for him. He's on that nice still streak, and then Carrie on a 2-game losing streak. So, yeah, we got the two streakiness right there. But yeah, and then let's move it forward to the scoreboard from last week. Most points, it's a new season high. It feels like every week it just keeps going up and up. Ben Danker, 182.3 points. Good googly moogly. I mean, wow. I mean, we haven't had anyone break 200. I mean, that's the closest we've got. So, um, way to go, Ben. 182. Fewest points of the week goes to Nels at 66.54. That might be the worst so far this entire season of anyone. So, got quite the variance there, between highest and lowest. And then best win obviously has got to go to Ben. His margin of victory was almost 100. It was 94.9 points or something like close to that. So Ben Danker just trouncing at Carroll in this one. Toughest loss has to go to Carey, only losing by 6 points to Adrian. And then with that being said, Adrian, you get luckiest win. Now, I thought about giving luckiest win to John Lopp because even though he won and won quite easily, he did have like the sixth. He did score less than one loser, so he had the worst points in terms of all the winners and less than Carey. But I really can't call it luck when you win by that score margin of victory. So I'll give it to Adrian this time for barely edging it out over Carey. So with that being said, let's go straight to the matchups here. Um, First matchup of the weekend, myself versus Mom. I thought I was going to win this one and, get back on that winning streak, but no, once again, I lost. So not looking good for me. Mom's team did really well. Just looking at some of the top performers, Derrick Henry did well and Puka Nacua. Those are probably the two best players for me this past weekend. For Mom, it was really Josh Allen. Christian Kirk, who I told her I'd say, hey, I think might have been worth playing him if Austin Eckler was hurt, and she did. So congratulations, Mom. And then Dallas defense. Those three definitely helped Mom out the most. For Mom, I'd say the key to victory was obviously, she got carried by Josh Allen and Dallas. And for me, it's just down weeks from everyone who had really great weeks last week. Tua had a great week last week, didn't do much. Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, they didn't do much as well. Miles Sanders not doing well. He's just very hard to figure out, and then my tight end situation not looking well either. So, and same thing with 49ers defense, So just overall down weeks from everyone for me. And then just looking at the bench, I mean, if I would have played it perfectly, then I barely would have won. But I mean, it's kind of hard to replace either Keenan Allen or Devontae Adams with someone like Terry McLaurin or even Puka Nacua. So that was not an easy decision to make there. Um, yeah, moving forward, with bye weeks are starting to come up now, so that'll be a new factor into the season. We'll see how that triggers any sort of ad drops on the waiver wire, how it changes starting lineups moving forward onto next week. And for me, it's just, I have a lot of frustration with my running backs, my tight end groups haven't really been pulling their weight. Derrick Henry's been great, but he's just been inconsistent a little bit. Um, yeah, and so I might be in the running back market in terms of trade. So anyone out there, if you see a trade request from me, don't be shocked. So, and then for Mom moving forward, I mean, Eckler's going to be on a bye this upcoming week, so obviously you won't play him again. But the week after, he should be good to go. Um, I think good things are to come for Mom's roster. I really do. I mean, obviously, Garrett Wilson did well. I mean, with Zach Wilson played a lot better against the Chiefs. So, is that going to be a one-hit wonder? Is he starting to figure things out? We don't know, but if he does, then that bodes well for Garrett Wilson. And I think Mom's running back group at the beginning when Eckler got hurt, it looked pretty dire. But Madison's been playing well. Raheem Mostert, I know he had a bad week last week, but he's overall he's been productive. Um, so I don't know. It seems like I would say Mom's team isn't looking as bad now. Like the depth is still a little shaky, but I think just overall quality of her team, especially having two monsters on our team like Josh Allen in Dallas defense is huge. So things are on the up and up, I think, for Mom. Moving on to the second matchup, John Lopp versus Nels Jensen. Another one I got wrong. I thought Nels was going to win this one. John Lopp just pulled away with it. For John, I mean, Justin Herbert doing his normal thing. Bijan Robinson had a nice bounce back game. Alvin Kamara, great performance to start his season after dealing with that 3-game suspension. And also his kicker, Brett Maher. I mean, 14. Whenever you can get double digits from your kickers, like that's, obviously great. So those are his best performers. For Dad, it was literally just Lamar Jackson, no one else. I mean, not even Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce was 5 points under his projected value. So that's very tough, and that may make sense because he had only 66 points. So it's just not good. Obviously, everyone but the QB sucked for Dad's team. Not gonna lie. I mean, even looking at his bench, like there really wasn't anything he could have done. Even if he played Anthony Richardson, even if he played Adam Thielen or Brian Robinson, that wasn't going to make up for the difference. So it was just a real tough luck week for Nels. Only having one player above 12 points and only two in total above 10. So just overall, running backs, receivers, flex, defense, just all subpar. So it's just one of those bad weeks where everything goes wrong for Nels. And then for John, obviously just enough amount of players did well. Now he also had quite a few players under project as well. Both of his receivers were subpar. Zach Moss didn't do well. The Bengals defense, etc. Dalton Kincaid, tight end. Um, yeah, like majority of his team didn't really do that well, but he had he just had enough guys do good enough to put him over the top. Moving forward, I think um, John has great running back depth, as you can tell with having Bijan, Kamara, Zach Moss, Saquon, Jonathan Taylor. Even if he comes back, who knows? And Achan with Miami. So um, who knows, John? Maybe I might send you over some trade requests. So you have to let me know what you're looking for. So, but running back depth is great. The receivers are a little bit concerning. I mean, Tyler Lockett's had a few good games, just not consistent enough, especially when he's competing when he's not the number one guy in Seattle, competing with DK. And then same with Waddle. Waddle hasn't really gone off yet. He's had some 3 subpar games so far. So that's a little bit of concern. I mean, we're still waiting for Cooper Kupp to get healthy. And then tight end, yeah, like I've said this before. I think your tight end situation's dire. Maybe that's something. I don't know if you're interested in Kyle Pitts or Luke Musgrave. Probably not, but who knows? And then for Nels, moving forward, I would say just don't dwell on the loss. You have a good team, you really do. It's just one of those weeks that nothing went right, and I really think moving forward you're going to be fine. Um, y- you know, Anthony Richardson, I mean, he's been really good so far to start the season. Even the game he got hurt early in that Houston game, and he still scored 17 points. That early into the game. So, um, if anyone out there needs a quarterback, maybe Anthony Richardson might be on the trade block. I mean, I can't speak for Nels, but it's possible. You just never know. I think he's a guy to keep in mind. If and Nels, it's a good trade piece if you're looking for something. So yeah. Moving forward to game three, Ben versus Carroll, yet another game that I got wrong. Third straight game that I predicted wrong. I thought Carroll would get a close win. Boy, yeah, talk about the exact opposite, right? Ben Danker just absolutely annihilating Carroll in this matchup. And surprising ways too. I mean, Justin Fields finally going off, finally getting the best game of the year so far. I mean, I know they still lost, but I mean, it's probably because, they face the Broncos defense who isn't that good. But yeah, finally you're getting some production out of Justin Fields. I was about to scream at you, Ben, for not listening to me, but hey, you know what? It worked this time. Christian McCaffrey having just an absolutely insane game. What's new? I mean, 48 points, but from one guy is just nuts. But that's just, McCaffrey's been a beast this year. He's what is it, like 14 straight games with a touchdown? It's just nuts. Um, AJ Brown, he went off. You had between AJ Brown and Christian McCaffrey, just those two alone, that got you over 80 points. So that's a recipe for success there. And then even Seattle's defense giving you 29. I mean, that was just an ugly game last night. Seattle by the Giants offense, and Seattle just wow, they really dominated that. So, yeah, those are probably, like, obviously those are your top performers for Carroll. I mean, Jalen Hurts and finally Isaiah Pacheco. Like, that's the type of game I was expecting. Isaiah Pacheco, not consistently, but I was expecting Isaiah Pacheco to kind of have like the 15 to 20 range, week in and week out. And now, I mean, he had a great game against the Jets. So finally, he's showing up and showing what I thought he would be, kind of. But yeah, I mean, key to victory for Ben, obviously having the huge performers there. Even Ben's bench, he had 82 points from his bench. Cole Kmet, 27 points. Khalil Herbert, 22 points. I know it was the Bears against the Broncos, so who knows how much that'll last for the Bears offense. But I mean, Chris Godwin, 19 points. That kind of happened more because Mike Evans got hurt. Like Chris Godwin wasn't really expected to do much, but then when Mike Evans went down, Godwin kind of got more of the majority of the targets and stuff in that game. Um, but yeah, I mean, just overall, a lot of huge performers. Having three guys get 29 or four guys get 27 plus. That's it's tough to beat when you're facing up against that. For Carroll, obviously it's another tough luck thing. You only had two guys do well. Jamar Chase, I mean, he did fine, but under projected. So, and everyone else, Zay Flowers just didn't do anything really that of significance. Tank Dell, that was tough. It's just tough when you got two teammates, Nico Collins and Tank Dell. One of them's going to go off and the other one's not. And last week it was the opposite. Last week Tank Dell was the one who went off and Nico Collins did. Nico Collins has been very, very up and down, like probably the biggest roller coaster ever of a player. You just never know what's going to happen with those Houston receivers. It's hard to tell. But yeah, moving forward, it's him and Romeo Dobbs. They've had really good weeks and they've had really bad weeks. So it's just those two are hard. And then Tutu Atwell as well. I mean, he's been consistent up until last week, and then he didn't do anything against the Colts. So I think Carroll's got a real interesting debate as far as who are wide receiver two and flex should be moving forward because these guys aren't consistent enough in my opinion. Zay Flowers and Tank Dell. So it might just be super matchup based. Nico Collins, Romeo Dobbs, Tutu might get more playing time, especially with buys coming up. And then for Ben, um, is this finally what we're going to see of Justin Fields moving forward? Do the Bears figure something out, or is this a one-hit wonder? And I'll still be I'll still be berating you about your quarterback situation. Who knows? But I think that's going to be huge for Ben moving forward if Justin Fields is able to keep this up. If not, then maybe Ben might hit up else for Anthony Richardson. Who knows? Just saying. So, those are my thoughts on that game. Then we go to game four, the only game that I got right. And of course, it's Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom against Garrett. Tom got the win here. He coasted in this one. Um, for Uncle Tom, Josh Jacobs and Kyron Williams were pretty much the only two guys who really over projected or who overhit their projection, I should say. Um, for Garrett, Justin Jefferson, what's new? Um, Minnesota defense did really well, and Jake Elliott. I mean, when your kicker almost gets you 20, like that's nuts. So, but yeah, I mean, when your kicker and your defense are two of your three best performers, that's usually not a good sign. Yeah, the rest of the team not so well. Yeah, it's just not enough, not enough production from the rest of the lineup for Garrett. For Tom, obviously, he got the job done. The Tom's just like Ben's bench, I think it was, or was it Ben or was it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was Ben. Ben's bench, just like Ben's bench, Tom's bench had a lot of points too. He had 94 points on his bench. David Montgomery, he sat David Montgomery at 34 points. Brandon Ayuk 20. Christian Watson had a decent game coming back. Jalen Warren. Uh, Tom's got depth and it's scary. So he doesn't even need solid like he didn't even need a good performance out of TJ Hawkinson or Tyreek. Tyreek had a pretty, low quality game for his standards. Patrick Mahomes, he didn't have a good game. But it doesn't matter because Tom's got depth. He's got so many good options and he's just got an overall great team. Um, but yeah, moving forward, I don't think buys should really be a problem for Tom to handle considering his depth. So he's just solid right now. He's in a golden situation in my opinion. And then as far as Garrett goes, the QB situation's not looking good. Joe Burrow, he hasn't even thrown a touchdown pass through 4 weeks of the season. That's really that's not good. And so I know you started Jared Goff, which obviously was the correct decision, but even then, like Jared Goff didn't even hasn't been consistent. I mean, he has his games, but he's not as reliable as some of the other top tier quarterbacks in his league. So QB situation is not looking good for Garrett, and also the running back situation too. I mean, Aaron Jones should be better. He just came back and was very limited and didn't get enough touches. Damian Pierce is solid, but if you just have those two and Jarrett McKinnon and Rashawn Johnson, two backups who you know won't get many opportunities, it's not looking good. So maybe Garrett will be in that running back market too, as far as trade value or anything like that. Um, and then moving on to the final game, Carey versus Adrian. I predicted Carey would win in a close one. It was close, but Adrian got it right. So my record for this week, I was 1-4, bringing my overall to 12-8. So, but going down in this matchup, Carey had a great performance from DJ Moore. Again, the Bears, that was a typical, um, typical trend. Obviously, a lot of the Bears offensive players did well. Um, and then Tampa Bay's defense, just stymied the Saints offense. And Tyler Bass, having a good game as well. For Adrian, Stephon Diggs getting 36 points. I mean, going up against Miami. I mean, I knew Miami's offense was good, but their defense has still been pretty suspect. So, um, but yeah, Stephon Diggs, incredible game. Same thing with Mark Andrews. CD Lamb literally hit his projection, 14.8, 14.8. You don't see that often. And then DeAndre Swift as well. I mean, that was a good job. DeAndre Swift starting to, I initially didn't see him as a consistent guy to rely on, but he's been proving me wrong. So DeAndre Swift has been, ever since week 2 at least, he's starting to be more and more consistent. So he's someone that you can definitely rely on moving forward, I would say. Ramondre Stevenson's probably just more of like a matchup base as far as reliability is concerned. For Adrian, though, obviously it goes without saying he was carried by Mark Andrews and Stephon Diggs. Without those two, or even one of them, honestly, but I like to use both just because they both had high points. So those two pretty much carried him. His obviously not much from his bench, so there really wasn't anything else he could have done to make it that much better. As far as carry goes, though, man, it's tough because like Kirk Cousins has been playing a lot better than Trevor Lawrence, but this week it just so happened that Trevor Lawrence did better, and that could have been the difference right there if you played Trevor Lawrence over Kirk Cousins. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. Um, and then obviously like Hollywood Brown too. He had 16 points. He's Hollywood Brown. I'd say moving forward for carry. Um, Hollywood Brown's is someone I would consider over T. Higgins. I mean, the Bengals offense has just been horrific this year, and I know T. Higgins had that great game week. What was it, week 2 or week 3? Just gonna click on him actually real quick. Um, yeah, I believe it was week 2 against Baltimore. Yeah, but just hasn't done much since. And the whole like the Bengals offense is they're 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 going through a lot of struggles right now. And Marquise Brown being wide receiver one in Arizona, and they've been a lot better than I've thought. So um, Josh Dobbs and Mark and Hollywood Brown are having that consistent connection week to week. So he's consistently getting 16, 17 points. He might be worth a shot to start over T. Higgins, or maybe even have DJ Moore start at wide receiver two and Marquise Brown at flex. And also, I would just preach patience with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he'll be getting better and better moving forward. The Lions haven't used him. I mean, I know David Montgomery has been kind of the workload at running back, but um, Lions offense is good. They're going to start pulling things out with Jahmyr Gibbs. Up there have been a lot of reports that they haven't even used him the way they really want to yet. They're still trying to figure things out offensively. So I would just be patient with Jahmyr, because I'm sure he'll improve vastly throughout the rest of the season. Um, but yeah, and then but also I skipped keys to the game for this one. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'd just say Kirk Cousins and T. Higgins really they let you down. Everyone else did well. Um, but yeah, it's just those two, and it's just tough. And then for Adrian, I already said that carried by the two performers. But moving forward for Adrian, your quarterback situation again. I mean, Daniel Jones, he was trying to help you lose that game. He was, but luckily for you, he at least had some decent rushing yards in that game, so that kind of put you over the top, Adrian. Barely. And then Deshaun Watson got hurt. Now, I don't know the extent of Watson's injury. It looks like he should be good to go after their bye week next week. But yeah, your quarterback situation is not ideal. Running backs too. I mean, DeAndre Swift is starting to look better, like more of a consistent back. Ramondre Stevenson's, you just never know what you're gonna get. And then your depth is very suspect as well. So it's just, I don't know, your QB and your running back situation overall kind of subpar. And then also just I would maybe consider, is Drake London better than DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver two at this point, or CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver two, and Drake London at flex? I just think Drake London is starting to show that he is more reliable in fantasy than DeAndre Hopkins is. Now, Hopkins is just on a team with a bad quarterback and a very run heavy offense, and I know he's D Hop, he's amazing, but he's getting older. He's someone that you really can't rely on as much these days. So yeah, those were the um that was the recap for week 4. Now we are a quarter of the way through the season, so I want to add something new to the pot to this sort of podcast. Just we're going over like the scoring leaders just to see if there's any surprises out there. Now, this was overall, but really breaking it down by position. Quarterback, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, top 3. That would not have surprised many people. But Jordan Love at number 4, that's pretty interesting. Kirk Cousins in the top 10. CJ Stroud is in the top 10, I believe. So yeah, it's just like those are, and you can go over here and check out like the total fantasy points versus average. Justin Herbert has the most, but in terms of average, Anthony Richardson is second. So he's been pretty reliable so far at quarterback, which is kind of insane to think about. Considering he wasn't even he was the third quarterback drafted. So in the real draft, in the NFL draft. At running back, Christian McCaffrey's been super productive. It's not even close. Look at that, 120, and the next Raheem Mostert at 89 with Kyron Williams and Achane. Who would have thought two running backs on the same team being the top 4 in production? Obviously that, it's all skewed from week 3, or yeah, week 3 matchup against Denver, but still, even then, look at this top 10 and how many of these top 10 running backs were in the first round of the draft. Like Christian McCaffrey, obviously, Bijan, and that's it. Everyone else, all these other guys, maybe Derrick Henry too, but all these other guys, no, they were not first rounders or maybe even second rounders, really. And then averaging it out, Christian McCaffrey's averaging 30 points a game. That's just insane. Like that that just doesn't happen in fantasy. So maybe expect that to go down a little bit, but I mean, still though, he's been killing it. And then Achan Eckler's only been playing. He's only played one game though. Same with Kamara. So take that with a grain of salt. Wide receiver, you got Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, and Puka. Stephon Diggs, Devontae, et cetera. Nico Collins in the top 10, which is kind of shocking. It's mainly just carried by those two monster games because his other two games were pretty bad. And then at tight end, TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's been on Ben's bench the whole season. So Ben, it might be time to think about starting him more consistently. He's been like the more consistent offensive player for the Bears all season. Um, yeah, and then Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, Hunter Henry, Travis Kelce's been down there now. He's still coming off that injury, but he should be fine moving forward. Defense, I mean, that was no surprise there. Cowboys defense well ahead of second, which is Buffalo, and then Tampa, Baltimore, Seattle, Cleveland. And then I guess I'll go over kicker too. Why not? But yeah, Jake Elliott, been the best kicker so far in terms of average as well. So just a little interesting thing to check out, a quarter of the way through the season. Interesting to see, who was worth the high picks, who you really reached for, who overperformed, who underperformed, all that sort of stuff. And then finally, to cap off this podcast, going over the final standing projections after week 4. In first, once again, Uncle Tom. I mean, that no surprise there. Second place, Nels Jensen. Now, even though Nels lost and had a bad loss, like I said, it was very, don't dwell on it, Dad. It was a very bad, just bad luck week for you. Especially with almost everything going against you except for your quarterback. So I think the value of your team is really good. It was a tough one. It was just a tough luck week. Jumping all the way up to number 3 though, Ben from 10 all the way to 3. He's been like the most volatile player in terms of where he's moved in the standings week to week. So Ben just keeps going back and forth in terms of final projection. Dallas Donuts, Adrian jumping up to 4. I'm a little shocked by that. I really am. I'm not gonna lie, but whatever. ESPN's opinion, not mine. Garrett dropped down to 5. Joan, Mom, even though she beat me, she dropped down to 6. Um, John Lopp jumped up to 7 from 8, and then Carrie jumped up from 9 to 8. So Carrie and John kind of neck and neck at each other. Dropping down to 9 myself. Yeah, I've been struggling, and it's very unfortunate, especially being the defending back-to-back champ. Gotta do something, man. I really do, or else things aren't going to be looking good. So I'm dropped to 9, and then Carol dropping all the way down to 10. So the worst trender, Carol dropping from 4th all the way to 10th after her win in week 3, now down to 10th. And then the best trender, Ben, going up 7 spots. Adrian going up 2 spots, and John and Carrie, I would say both go up 1. So that's the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put out the week 5 prediction video soon. Remember, there are bye weeks this week, so be active on the waiver wire. Remember to not start players on buys unless you really don't care and you just maybe want to try to win with less players. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, good luck this week. I will put out my prediction video at the end of the week, and you'll hear me later. All right. This has been the DFFFP. Paul Jensen signing off. Thank you.